All right, Mr. Arde Aghili is on the podcast today. How are you, guy?
I'm doing well. I want to say first, Big Daddy Colts says, "What's up?" Actually, he says, "Yo." That's what he said.
Big Daddy Coulter, the forefather of Full Moon. Yeah.
That's correct.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
So man, first off, I just want to say congratulations on the blue hair. Not everyone is so bold.
Thank you.
You know, I dyed my hair red. I'm just fucking. It's just that time. It's just that season to make a change.
I agree. I think it came about with this energy of like needing to self-express and needing to let out some of that in some sort of outlet. And yeah, my hair was the nearest victim. So
There's a lot of that in the world nowadays.
yes.
Just 'cause people don't have to like go into work, so they're like, fuck it, I'm gonna dye my hair.
Yeah.
Like they're just working from home.
I'm
you
here
know?
for it. I think it's a lot of like seeing how much influence that part of society has on the rest of your life. Right? Like all of these people, their whole lives, some of them that aren't even in their 20s. You know, I see like middle-aged people, parents, what I'm assuming are parents, coloring their hair or like walking around with colored hair now a lot more often.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think these are people that have like wanted that their whole life, and for whatever reason, it was just like a little bit too far. You know, like it was like, oh, that'd be really cool, but you know, we have.
What are they gonna say at the water cooler? What are they gonna?
Yeah, oh, gee.
Oh,
must have been a real messy breakup.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's the go-to, right? You do something drastic to your hair, it's like, ooh, what happened to them?
Ooh, who hurt you?
Yeah.
The world hurt me.
Straight up.
The world hurt me. Yeah. So, and in addition to the changing of the hair, you've also changed up the DJing name.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy you brought that up because I was a bit confused coming into this. I'm undergoing a rebrand of sorts. I used to go by Deshi. I don't hate the name. I'm just branching out, I guess, and branching out in my flavors of what I'm trying to achieve musically also.
Yeah, expand on that a little bit. Like what? So the genre I've heard from you before. You know, it's future funk is like your bread and butter. Well, at least when we were getting started, and of course house music. But would you kind of stand now musically, or are you leaning? Are you going into something different? Is that what you're saying?
I think I'll answer your question by like kind of giving a cop out answer, but I think I'm trying to move into this like more eclectic space of combining everything just because you can. And if it sounds good, it sounds good. Obviously, if it sounds bad, I'm not gonna like force it together. But I don't know. I see a lot of cool tracks where it's like, you know, really unexpected movements or like a really hard trappy beat, and then all of a sudden there's like this melodic piano breakdown, and then that like goes to like, you know, something totally different. And I think it's cool to like use a lot of different sound palettes and sound fonts in the same project and then just like bounce between them. Like I think it's really psychedelic, and I think it's a cool space that music is going into.
Yeah, more of like a free form. You're not trying to stick to a certain genre.
Yeah. Like something that I was thinking about is, for example, in dance music, there's a lot of loops, which isn't a bad thing. Like the music itself, even when you're DJing, like it's a very slow pulse kind of rhythm to kind of keep the energy going. That's what it is. But like I was thinking the other day, like what if you just had that as like an 8-bar, and if you wanted to play live and you wanted that energy for the whole time, then sure, like, you know, put the 8-bar loop on. But then maybe the next section after that is like a dubstep drop, and it isn't as deep. So yeah, that's just like that's kind of like the headspace I'm in, is you can still achieve the stuff that you wanted to do and almost make DJing more of a sampling thing than a DJing thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, are you thinking about like live production where you're going through a
Yeah.
program, or you're using a 404 right now, right?
I'll be honest, yeah, I picked up the 404. I've used it maybe consistently for about a week. I'm really used to the dot workflow. Like I really just like clicking on things, being behind the computer screen. Um, I'm trying to like figure out where that fits because it definitely is an interesting instrument, but I think it would be more interesting as like a live tool. It has a lot of really cool effects on there. Um, so yeah, just like loading some stems on there, and then maybe, you're playing a track and then you like literally just finger drum basically whatever your stems are back into the mix.
Yeah, there's a local artist around here. Do you have you heard of Dungeon Destroyer?
Yeah,
Yeah,
huge fan.
yeah, yeah,
I recently found out about them. I think like a couple months ago I picked up their tape. Um, but yeah, huge fan.
yeah, yeah, and that's that because they're as I haven't seen the live show. All I know is that they do use the 404 as their instrument basically,
Hmm.
and just making tracks on the fly. I think there's something so cool about that that also is just the work of the DJ is to capture the vibe of the room and sort of accentuate it. And if you can do anything on the fly, like more power to you. Like
Oh yeah.
who needs just two decks?
I
Yeah,
think
that's like it's like
Go
taking it
ahead.
to the next level, and like I'm excited, just because it's like you're like incorporating that like actual perform like you're performing on an instrument, alongside with like turntables. That's insane. Like, and I'm sure there's like a lot of like gear required for that, but it's similar to like some bands that might only have like one guitar player, and they're like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna get a looper pedal,
Yeah,
so that way like I don't need a rhythm guitar player, like I can just like do both at the same time.
Yeah,
yeah,
these traveling musicians are just like the wave, man. I remember seeing, I think it was a guitarist, and they had like an Ableton Live session going. And they just had their MacBook on stage and whatever effects and stuff. I think they had some sort of like controller next to their guitar, but like that was their whole live setup. No pedal board, nothing crazy. Like it looked really great. Um, I'm about it.
mm,
It's complicated and I have no idea what I'm getting into, but I'm learning. Like,
I feel like there's like many different ways to skin a cat, right? Like what I mean by that is there's many different ways to do different things. Sorry, that's like,
and to skin cats.
and to
Yes.
skin
this is true.
cats.
Hmm.
Like I'm a cat person, so's Arde.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I think if like something works, then it just works. So like it's only as complicated as like you would want it to be, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
that's true. That's the thing about just like music in general in the modern age is like shit can be so complicated. At least as like an outsider looking in. Like there's this one artist who's out of Amsterdam. Yeah, I'm not even gonna attempt to say the name, but he has like he's got his whole Moog synthesizer up there with him. He's got Ableton Live going. He's got his machine Mark II with the drum pads on it, cueing samples that way, and just like, and then some people throw in even the Roland drum machine,
Yeah.
and they're just doing it all live, and that's it. It's like any other instrument though. Like once you get the hang of it, maybe it's a huge learning curve to have all those things, but once you get the hang of it, like sky's the
Yeah.
limit. Hmm.
It's like I feel like what I'm missing in my workflow, well, maybe not my workflow, but just creatively, is like that session feel. And I think you get that session kind of feel on stage when you're doing live production. I don't know, even sitting in a DAW, it's hard to like find a loop to groove on or something like that. I think collabs and stuff like that are what I would have previously leaned on, and now I don't really have that anymore.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like as far as like experimenting with sounds?
Yeah, and writing, to be honest. Like I think personally, the way I write is, improvise, listen back. Does it sound okay? Do things need to be changed? Does this need to be just like totally scrapped? And then kind of just iteratively build on that. And I think collabs complement that really well because then it's just like, oh, like this is what you hear. This is what I'm hearing. What if we change it this way? Or just small stuff like that really can like take it in a totally different direction.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I feel like is missing right now. Me personally as an artist, and I'm sure you guys can relate on this too, is like figuring out how to collab with our current technology. Like,
Yeah.
like even sharing Ableton files, like it gets so messy sometimes. Like,
Dude, it's like I could barely connect my audio to this call. So there's no way I'm gonna like figure out how to stream audio on Twitch or Discord. It's
yeah.
possible. It's just
Yeah.
That's the thing about, I don't know. Especially when it's hard to even be in the same room as one another nowadays. It's hard to imagine how you can collab. And even like listen, I haven't collabed on a whole lot of songs. I don't know how often you guys have done it, but there is a little bit of like, how do we even do this right? Like, who's going to do what part? In a band, it's very obvious who's going to do what parts. Someone has to be on the drums, someone has to be on the bass, someone's on lead guitar. Maybe he's also on vocals, or that we get a separate vocalist. But, like, working in a DAW, it's a little bit more complicated. At least from my
it's
experience.
like a
Let me put
padded
this
cell.
seasoning on there,
Yeah.
on the hats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me put this.
You could really easily go crazy staring at your DAW.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, steering away from music real quick, because and what should I call you? Should I call you Barcode? Should I call you Arde?
Let's just do Arde. Yeah, I think everyone who knows me as Arde at some level or some point. So yeah,
Arde. Yeah, because you're a multifaceted artist. And by multifaceted, I mean multifaceted. You have so many different eggs in different baskets. The one that is like, I feel like isn't talked about enough about you is your photography. The photography side of you. Because, on your personal IG, you post about your very well done film, like using traditional film. I don't know much about it. What can you tell me about that journey?
Well, first of all, thank you. I think that's very kind of you. Yeah, it was kind of like a happy accident, to be honest. My girlfriend at the time wanted a camera for Christmas, and I got like 2 cameras as a deal off Craigslist. It was like $20 or $40 for 2 cameras, which is absolutely wild. But yeah, like we kind of started into it together and learning about, I had done some like digital photography, but definitely no classes or anything like that. And I definitely took to it a lot more than she did. So yeah, I've kind of been just exploring that as for fun, for myself kind of art. I think with music and a lot of other things that I get really serious about, I'm like, okay, like what are the rules? What's the technique? Get into that gatekeeping model almost, where it's like, oh no, this is like good photography, this is bad photography. If you don't do all these small things, then you're not doing it right, and you shouldn't even pay attention. So yeah, it's been a really like carefree form of expression, which has been really nice as a contrast to all this other stuff.
Definitely. And you have models that you've worked with too.
Yeah. Most of them close friends. I mean, it's the same with music, right? You just know people, and it's like, hey, you want to get together and do this?
Mm-hmm.
So it's great.
Yeah. And so, like, between music and wanting to use traditional, like, analog equipment and wanting to use film, like, why won't you adapt? Why won't you get a digital camera, Arde? Why don't you just use your freaking DAW? Why are you messing around with this 404 BS?
Why don't you smoke an analog jewel instead?
Okay.
True.
Giant battery on it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, to roll up like cowboy style. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I think it's a fair question, and I think it's something I'm asking myself. I think I'm coming back to this weird space. I'm a gearhead. I love looking at specs, and I love being like, okay, what's like the best buy for this price range, or what's the best buy given what I have. So because I'm fortunate enough to be in a position now where I can like look at gear, I think that's been kind of a black hole, rabbit hole of sorts, where it's like, oh, like this is missing from my workflow and I can't work, I need this exact specific thing. Otherwise I just can't make a beat. Like it's impossible.
Yeah.
So that's that's mentally kind of where I am. Thankfully I have a controller on the way I really like. I'll go ahead and plug them just because I did a lot of research on it, but it's the Nectar controller. It's the Panorama P6. It's really cool. It has like a bunch of faders and stuff on it, but hopefully that will be like my end all be all solution for never buy hardware again. Just shut up and
produce. God damn it.
Yeah, for real.
So that's a controller like the brain of your analog system? Is that what you're talking about? Or
I think it'll do like a MIDI clock sync, which could be helpful for my 404. So what I'm mentally picturing is I have my 404 as like a dedicated drum machine sampler almost. Only pitfall there is you have to like manually load samples to it, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But I have that MIDI synced to the controller, and then the controller goes to my DAW, my computer, and everything. So that way, if I want to do like weird drum samples or whatever, I have that on the side. Yeah, I have my VSTIs and everything. I can just load up Serum and blah, 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 play whatever. And yeah, like I said, hopefully that's even with automation, like you can just do whatever on the faders, and I'll finally put some tracks out. I have some like SoundCloud remixes. I'll call them that specifically because it's like low effort doodle style.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
that's the thing.
It's been a minute since I've like seriously put something out.
Yeah, no, it has been a minute. We're missing you. We're missing the tracks. So what you have been working on, we have listened to. Getting back to music again, is what did you say? It's like the chopped and screwed kind of sound.
Yeah, I love DJ Screw. Definitely a huge influence, and you can hear him a lot in like a lot of music today. But I think recently that's been my sauce. Is just like how I'm feeling, that kind of grimy, slowed down energy. Yeah, and a lot of like breakup song remixes is what I've been doing, just because that like resonates me right now. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
definitely, that's really cool. So yeah, the gearhead thing, that whole concept of like, I can't start until I have this. I can't start. Now I have this, but I can't start until I have that. That's where so many people are starting to get caught. I know myself. Like, I have this Roland JDXI, and I was like, I can't start producing until I get this one synthesizer, and then I get the synthesizer, and then I'm like, all right, I can't start producing until I get Ableton Suite, and then I get Ableton Suite. And then I just use Ableton Suite, rarely use this fucking JDXI. Like, at the end of the day, like, art, you don't need a whole lot. You use a free DAW. What is it called?
It's called Reaper.
Reaper.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was going to say, just a quick aside there, if you're ever feeling lost on the software side, or like, oh, I can't afford things on the software side, definitely take a peek at pirating. There's no reason that you should be waiting on the bag just to give it to some software company. If you can, that's great, and I think they should be supported, but that's the last thing that should be holding you back.
Yeah.
I do like that, or sort of like, just circling back to that mental trap of like, oh, I need this, I need that. Like, I saw that like when I was in a band where it was always like, oh, we need this guitar pedal, we need another synthesizer, like we need all this stuff. And for that reason, that's why I appreciate art that sort of is minimalistic, where there's not a whole lot of like upfront expenses that go into it. It's like you like people that draw things with charcoal. You know what I mean? Just like simplicity. Like there is a beauty to that I find, and
Absolutely.
I think there's definitely a balance. Like I wouldn't want to not have my Ableton suite
Yeah.
when I work on tracks, but like I don't know, like that. Not like complacency, but sort of like acceptance or like like
Resistance.
an abundance mindset instead of like a scarcity mindset. I
Yeah,
think that's powerful.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a whole album by Burial. I don't know if you've heard of it, but he produces it on on a program that's the same as like Audacity, where there's no beat grid, there's no lining things up. The whole song doesn't have like a set rhythm to it, and yet it's one of the most beautiful albums you can hear. I'll throw up the image of Burial album right now, but
Wow.
it is like you don't need much to make art, you know. People were in caves drawing, taking berries and spreading them all over the walls. Like if you need something more than that, you might be doing something wrong. You might be doing something wrong. Not in every case.
Just
But...
give me the like 120 pack of crayons, bro.
Yeah.
Like
I'll make the Mona Lisa.
By the way, if you've never done that before, for anyone watching, you should totally try that. Like if you're a recording artist or if you're trying to record synths and stuff like that, just practice playing off the grid to find your own inner clock.
That's true. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, we talked about your photography, music, of course, we're always there. We're always striving and prospering towards the sound the audience wants. Not even just the audience, but we want, right? Like,
oh yeah.
At what point is so we're all DJs here. We're all part of the Crypt music collective. We all have to find that balance between what we like and what the audience is gonna like. How do we balance that? What does it even mean to play for people? Like, are we trying to please them? Are we just trying to express ourselves? What even is the happy medium, if there is one? Like, what would you say you're trying to do when you're mixing, or when you're trying to play a show, or even when you're in a band?
I'll start off. Me personally, I can think back to trying to play a lot of my Future Funks songs at like shows, like actual real shows where people are expecting house music. So I think I tried to find the happy medium, and like this is the stuff you're used to. This is what you like wanted to hear or were expecting to hear, and then like bring them slowly on over to the deep cuts or like the weird stuff that maybe they won't even like. But I just want to play it through to like, you know, give the people something different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just me personally. It's like, it's almost like boiling a crab or whatever. I forget the saying. Boiling a frog. People don't eat frogs, really, though.
What kind of frogs you? What the fuck? What kind of frogs
It's
you?
the, you know.
you eat frog
something
legs in the South.
Is that the saying though? Like
In France, they eat
frogs that
frog
you boil,
legs.
and if you turn up the heat slowly, they're like, oh, it's just a little warmer.
It's a little warmer.
Yeah.
Anyway,
here's that saying. Here's where it's.
I couldn't
Let's talk
even
about the
remember
French.
the
How they eat
saying.
frogs.
And they eat snails too.
I've tried
Escargot.
escargot. It's actually quite good. I like the consistency.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't fuck with it. It's like rubbery. I ain't an escargot guy.
I guess you're not bougie enough to eat escargot, bro. Like, you're not.
Yeah, next you're gonna say the caviar was bland.
Throwing salt on caviar while I'm in a fancy restaurant. That's where you'll find me.
Can I get some A1 sauce for this caviar? Can I get some?
The house ketchup, please. I need to dip my caviar spin in there.
Yeah, but when that's definitely, it's a conversation. I mean, it's been said before, but like playing for people is a conversation, and you're trying to open them up to something new while giving them something that won't completely turn them away. And I was just talking to someone about that, a local like media marketer type of person, about like playing music, and it's like I could play the same house bangers back to back to back. I could play the same thing that people have always heard. As soon as they turn their back and they're sick of it, you know what I mean? Like as soon as like there's an off step or like someone is not listening to you, that's when it's like, all right, fuck all y'all. You know, fuck the audience. I'm going to play what I want to hear now. And either you're going to like it or you're not. I don't know. That's where I come from. And that's like it's being an artist, you kind of have to have a fuck you mindset, cuz you're not going to please everyone.
True.
I like to think of Arde as like a wizard that like can just still like on that same subject, right? Like you'll play like some of the poppier or like I don't know, like stuff that's on the charts, right?
Yeah.
But then you're like as a wizard, you slowly, not necessarily trick, but like influence that collective conscious that I feel like everybody is like really yearning for right again, you know? But like in front of like a live crowd, like you're able to like truly like shape like what they're thinking about, you know? And through that way you can slowly like go down the spectrum into like deeper tracks or, you know, stuff that just would flow well.
That makes me think a lot about art. Are you thinking about my set at Full Moon where I like randomly went into this deep dark techno
Yeah.
for like 20 minutes?
Yeah, dude, that was a killer set. That was like one of the last full moons I went to too, like back in December.
Yeah.
Back when the world was like normal.
True. Back when the world was normal.
But yeah, that's like something like I feel like we all need is like that day when like shows can be a thing again. Just that like the presence of the audience, like to actually gauge, like
yeah,
be able to like feeling out vibes is like a critical thing that like DJs aren't really doing right now. Like
yeah.
like on a stream, like I don't know, it would be hard to like read comments and stuff. So you had to have somebody like read them to you or whatever.
You have like a vibe meter. It's like a, I don't know, like some down vote kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, just gotta go. Let's play some K-Tech.
Like unless you can like use your third eye to like gauge like the vibes like across the digital dimension, like I feel like some people might be able to do that.
Yeah. Damn, that is a hard thing to hit. It's a hard thing to hit. But it also opens up a lot of freedom as well, like I've said, but yeah, it allows you to explore something a little different. I've gotten to play a couple of live streams and the concept is like you don't really have an audience. Maybe you have the people who are in the room at the moment, but just pleasing them doesn't mean it's going to even please whoever's listening. So playing what you want to play in that situation is a very freeing experience.
Absolutely. I played like one live stream. But yeah, it was more so than any other, even like a jam session, even just at the homie's place or whatever. It was like, this is already set. You can play whatever you want. Like, yeah, there's people here, but this is your time, and there's no one in front of you to be like, yeah, I love this song, or no, play something else. There's no what's the word I'm looking for? Like feedback, like that instant feedback, which is really different, especially when you're like expecting that. You're like, oh, the drop just hit, like I'm vibing, and there's no reciprocation of that. So it's very different.
Dance by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like, I don't know, personally, I'm totally used to that. So Yes. Well, steering away again for music.
like I said, multifaceted, multi-talented Ardesher Aghili. You, the way I met you, the way that we have bonded was through, I don't know if how many people know this. It was so long ago now, but we bonded through comedy,
Yeah.
sketch, improv, and stand-up comedy. Um, you were in the it was through ASU, but you were in the ASU comedy game before I was. I'm pretty sure. And like, how did that kind of start? Was that something you thought was going to be the movement? Like, that was where you're headed, or was it just something fun to
Yeah.
do?
That's a really great question, and honestly, something I wasn't expecting you'd ask. Um, I I think it was my first semester of my junior year. I had like moved out. It was a huge deal. I lived in the dorms for like a semester, but I was, actually doing it. I had like roommates. I was paying rent the whole nine. Um, and I really just wanted to do something different. I was already involved with like there was an esports team at ASU, so I already knew all the gamers and like that was fine. But I wanted something a little different, and I knew I needed to like meet people. So one of my friends, Cameron, you know him.
Mahai.
Yeah, Cameron Mahai. We went to high schools together, and I just saw like a Facebook share of the auditions. And I had never done any sort of acting or improv or writing even before, but I was like, yeah, whatever. Like I'll just show up. Worst case, it's like a fun auditioned experience. And like I honestly am not expecting anything. But then I got cast as an understudy, and the rest is history. I started in the improv, made a lot of friends. Everyone is really great. Um, yeah, I moved into sketch and stuff.
Yeah. So that was just something really to do to meet friends.
Yeah, it was like a social step for me. I think I was a very uh even much more closeted kind of isolated person. So I knew I needed to like that step or like grow from that kind of experience. So I think I calculated. You asked that before. Like, was it the move strategically? Yeah, it was like the arty move. It was like I need to work on my social skills, and
Ah,
this is great.
that's interesting. Yeah, that wasn't exactly
Yeah,
what I thought you'd say. I thought it would be like, I was trying to be a comedian, professional comedian, but you were like, that's what a lot of people really got out of that at the end of the day. I know I did too. Was really making friends and learning to be social and
yeah,
expressive at the same time.
absolutely.
Just meet a bunch of funny people. Just,
I will say the energy is definitely something you have to learn to live with and then don't really miss. It's always all bits all the time. Everyone's rapid fire. Um, it's different.
It's different. It is. It is. It is all bits all the time. If you're not the funniest person in the room, surrounded by a whole other fun group of funny people, like, you're kind of drowning. You're kind of not, you know.
It's also just like looking back, I feel like it was so difficult to have real conversations with people up until you were maybe one on one. Like two on two was definitely pushing it. One on one, it would still be hard to like keep focus, but like there's no way you could have like a heartfelt conversation at a party. It was
No.
just a totally different kind of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that 100%.
Yeah.
what do you folks mean by that though? Like, just as someone that wasn't in comedy, like what specifically about like that energy or like those like characters like would make hanging out with them different than like hanging out with like a bunch of DJs per se?
I don't think it's too different. It's I think it's different from like the musician friends because with musician friends, it's always conversation steered towards like, oh, like this is my new workflow, or like check out this new plugin I got. Like it's a really expensive one. I don't know. There's like you talk shop with musicians or whatever and DJs, and that's totally different, but just as distracting as like the kind of cracking jokes. I'll call it the bit wars, like an arms
Bit
race. The
Wars.
bit wars.
Yes. Brother in Arms and the Bit Wars. Yeah. Yeah. To comment on that, it for looking at it, the group of people who are comedians, as a comedic person, like there's a front you kind of put on. There's that like make a joke out of anything, like just be the funniest you can be. Just make sure everyone's having a good time. Like people who are involved in comedy, having deep conversations isn't what you're there to do. Like when you're full time writing sketch comedy, doing improv, like what you're trying to do is entertain people constantly. When you're a musician and you're just talking to someone, you're not going to start beatboxing and like riffing a beatbox with them. You can actually have a conversation that's deeper than just bit after bit after bit. So it's like it's a personality kind of thing, I would say, for who it attracts. Yeah. And I guess one other thing about that, like even in the stand-up realm, the vibe I get around Phoenix comedy, you know, I haven't been in very many other comedic scenes, but the stand-up comedian scene in Phoenix it's very cynical. It's very like cynical is probably the best word I could use. It's someone who's trying to make fun of the world they're in. They're trying to make they're always trying to make light of horrible shit, and at the same time that's because they're personally in a place where they have to make fun of horrible shit, you know? Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's like the difference. I feel like with musicians, like when you get to just have a one-on-one conversation, they're more open because you're expressing yourself in a different way. A more emotional way is more impactful, and so you're more open to expressing yourself emotionally to other people, I would say. And then there are those DJs who are just there to look pretty.
Just flex on everybody.
Yeah. We know those people.
Like a thought experiment.
Those are the people that would just start beatboxing or like at a party.
Bring out their track, like, yo, check this shit out. Like, I'm pretty, like, hear this mix. You hear that mix? That's pretty solid, right?
Bro, that's like literally the Joe Biden Despacito thing. It's just like mid-conversation, you're like, hey, what do you think? Snare too loud?
Yeah, that
makes me think though, like, what does like the Zen comic look like the Zen DJ, or are they two different people? You know what I mean?
They're that's like the Zen artist, right?
Yeah, I mean, I should have explained a little bit more because I was kind of in my head. You were talking about the cynical folks in the Phoenix comedy scene, or at least that's like the general vibe. Like, is that incompatible with being Zen? Because I definitely think that's like a negative energy to have, at least in music, or at least to me personally, that's gonna like harm my creative flow. I
guess it just depends on like what type of music. Like it definitely has like no place in like EDM necessarily. Like I don't know. You'd have to work pretty hard to like find an example.
Yeah, like the soul sucking garage like techno.
Yeah,
you know,
it's pretty diverse in music. The kind of people you can meet. You know, like the people in the techno crowd are probably going to be a little bit more reserved and more calm. Who's got the phone going?
Somebody's calling an iPad.
Oh, like, yeah, in different genres, I feel like you'll meet different people. Like the techno crowd's probably more reserved. But I don't know. There are exceptions. Yeah. I don't know.
I definitely like to think there's exceptions.
Yeah. There's definitely
It's hard because like I think a lot of the crews, at least locally, definitely try to build a brand about like the people within the crew too. And I don't know, like, just for example, you think of the techno snobs and you like have a specific kind of person in your mind already. Like they're all black, like you said, they're a little bit more reserved, kind of keep to themselves. But
yeah, but they're like kinkiest like group of people. You're gonna find.
Tell me it's always the quiet ones. It's always the quiet ones you have to worry about.
Yeah.
I just want to go to another Techno Snobs show.
Man, yeah.
A little kink party, fetish party.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That was a vibe, dude. That
I'm
was
so bummed I missed that. I'm also thinking back to, I don't know if you were there, Will, but Davis, remember when we went to Monarch to try to get to 9x9?
Yeah.
And it was a no-go.
It was a no-go. The thing is that, like, we had access. We knew the people were running it. It was just like, I don't know if I want to. I'm just, I don't want to, like, what is it? It's like the imposter. Like, I don't know. I'm not really proud of them. Yeah.
It is a weird energy. I always feel like I'm crashing even when I'm on guest list or something. It's like,
yeah. But that's the cool part of being a part of any sort of community, is having a little bit of that feel of exclusivity.
yeah.
You know, like, oh, I know that DJ. I'm gonna go up behind him and whisper how much I love him real quick, and then get back down.
I will say I think that's something I found in both the comedy community and like the music community. Definitely a lot more in like the music community because of like Plur and stuff like that, and just like the burners definitely have that gift giving to a different extent. But I think both communities do a good job of looking out for one another.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm thinking back when I was active in the Phoenix comedy scene and like actively hitting mics and stuff. I think someone went missing or something like that, and everyone did a really great job on, you know, keeping everyone updated and stuff like that. But yeah, just the small things I'm really grateful for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is definitely, since I've been a part of this whole DJing community, the EDM community, even like Full Moon really is the precipice of it, the foundation of finding this kind of loving community that that really just supports one another, is there, ready to listen to one another. And it's like a big family. And that's something that's really cool about the scene out here right now, I would say, being a part of it. Yeah. But other than that, yeah. So just off topic. You smoke weed?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can we put that on the record?
Can you put that on the record real quick?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's an election coming up, and part of
I'm
the
running.
and
District 12.
Arde is District 12, mayor of District 12, and there's a lot of controversy about pot legalization in Arizona. 4 years ago, that was up for question, as far as, what does it really mean to have recreational marijuana versus medical? Like, is it, you think it's better? Think it's worse? What is the benefits of having recreational marijuana on the ballot? I know Will has something to say about it.
I'm really excited to hear what Will has to say about it. So I will yield my time, good sir.
All right. We can cut this out. We don't have to talk about it.
all right. Well, basically, I mean, it needs to be legalized. Like, you can't have a plant be illegal. Like, that's my thesis to this argument, right? Like how,
Fair
like,
thesis.
are you gonna make dandelions illegal? Are you gonna make, I don't know, spinach illegal? Like, I don't know. Those are all kind of straw man arguments, but it's a fucking plant, dude. Like if you believe in God, and God through evolution, or on like day 3 of the universe, like, made this plant, like, how is that a bad thing? Like, I don't know. That, and like, because it's illegal, so many people are in jail just for that, in prison, like, the only way it's destroyed lives, like, realistically, is through the criminal justice system. And, like, the millennials just got to get out and vote this election, because like, they never vote. We never vote. Like, I always vote, but like, the millennials, like, they never, like, come out and full force to vote. It's always like the boomers that are always out there, and they're just like, you know, like the same people that like are part of like an HOA, like telling people like you can't paint your house this color, you know.
Yeah.
Like are going to tell you how to live your life, and I don't think that's fair. I think just for the criminal justice reform, it needs to be legalized. As far as like what that's going to do to the quality of the weed, it's debatable. The price points are definitely going to change, but I mean, just like it needs to be legalized. It should have never been illegal.
I agree. I'm wondering, do either of you know anything about? Can you hear me still? I turned down my.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do either of you know what like the decriminalization process has been like in California? Maybe Davis.
In California, well, it was passed in the 2016 election, I'm pretty sure, for pot legalization.
Mhm.
And it there's a certain amount you can carry on your person. It might be up. I know it's like a pretty solid amount, like 2 ounces or something. Yep,
Got it.
something. It has to be
Basically,
under that.
just like only the big dealers or whatever.
Yeah.
Or whoever's gonna fall to that. Okay.
But the big part that I do like about California weed legalization, so there's some negatives. There's high taxes on it. The price of it is it skyrocketed. You know, going into a store. I don't know. Generally, I don't like how recreational weed came out in California, but what I do think works really well is being able to grow your own supply. Because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of grandmas, there's a lot of moms out in California right now who are just growing their own supply. They want it to just be CBD heavy. They're not too worried about getting super baked. They just have really quality marijuana that they can have access to at any time. That's fully legal to carry. Yeah, I think that worked really well as far as being able to have your own plants. I think that's a big point that would be nice to have in Arizona, is being able to, even if you need a license for it or something. Because the rule right now to grow weed, you have to be 20 miles from a school or something, isn't it? It's something.
Yeah, it's something
crazy.
ridiculous to where you really have to be in like some rural part of town.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and a medical patient as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like I have to grow my own medicine. Like I don't know, that's weird.
And pay upwards of $200 to get that card to begin with, and
Which lasts what, like a year or 2 years or whatever?
It's 2 years now. When I had my marijuana card, it was only 1 year, and I was paying $250 just to get the checkup and then the card itself, and that's
a business expense.
like how many people who are in need of that medicinally can have access to it because of that. But that's that's another point. But yeah, hopefully we can see a little bit of change in that respect, and like nationwide decriminalization makes the most sense, I would say.
I think a lot of the resistance to it has been like people unsure of first transitioning to like it being legal to being legal, and then also what do we do with all the people that have already been like in prison or they got out of prison or whatever. Like what does that look like? And I think that's a really important question, but I don't think it should like stop the whole process.
Yeah. And it's like the system, it's crazy to think about that there are private prisons that rely on people getting arrested and thrown in there. So they have a reason to keep it illegal, to keep a bunch of other things illegal. Like, I don't know. It's really not a good situation. And then the whole war on drugs, I wrote a whole paper about it. It started off as a ploy for Nixon to take down the Black Panther movement. It was a ploy to, in the early like 30s, I think Will said, it's like it was a ploy to take down the Hispanic community as well. It never had solid roots.
Oh yeah.
In the 40s, it was the greatest thing ever because we needed the rope to win World War II. It's like we couldn't get enough rope.
It was like, yeah, everyone grow it.
So it's like
Victory Gardens.
Victory Gardens.
But yeah, it's in like this the 13th Amendment. Like it's not about weed. It's about the 13th Amendment and how that still kind of left the door open for slavery. It's like this documentary on Netflix that's pretty relevant to what's going on in the world today. But that's a great documentary that kind of just shows like that whole timeline from the time that
the 13th abolished slavery.
It about like the word, like the verbiage on the 13th Amendment. It's like no one should ever like be enslaved except for the punishment of a crime.
Got it.
So
yeah.
the punishment
Yeah,
of a crime is how, in a lot of ways, they were able to keep that up. So that led to, through a series of events, the mass incarceration that we see in America versus other countries. Like America has more people in jail, like per capita, than even maybe not China, but like officially China and
I think we're like number
Russia.
1 in the world. I think I remember reading that somewhere.
But we just have millions of people that are locked up.
It's wild.
And like you're not doing them any favors keeping them in jail. Like so I don't know.
Like I'm definitely all for legalization. I just don't like seeing that and then like all of the pot startups and the dispensary folks are like run by white dudes. The CEO's a white dude.
Bring your mic up a little bit. Bring your mic up a little bit. Yeah.
It doesn't sit right with me to see like that happening in the mass incarceration and then not being fixed or at least being addressed with all of these startups popping up and it's like white dudes running the company for pot startups and things like that. But yeah, I think on like a purely ideological standpoint, definitely I agree. It's pretty stupid to have it be illegal in the first place and it was made illegal for all the wrong reasons. But yeah, I think the process is what has a lot of people a bit skeptical or at least like hesitant.
The process of
legalization. Like what it looks like, how do all the wrongs get righted, or how do we at least pay some sort of reparation to those people? I think that's just like, oh well, we have a pandemic and this other stuff and the election year, so let's just focus on that right now.
Yeah.
The issues are totally different. Like I haven't seen any ads that bring that up.
Well, if we look back to like the last election, when legalization was up on the ballot for Arizona, it was like a pharmaceutical company was like one of the biggest opponents to legalization. Like it was like a pharmaceutical company was shelling out millions of dollars and like having all these ads against it and being like, don't vote for this is bad. Like, so a lot of times like you just need to follow the money and the special interests. And like with same thing, like jumping topics to private prisons, but it's sort of the same thing. It's like you have one entity over here, entity A, benefiting monetarily from X event over here, or this sort of system that's been put in place. So I mean, you could look and I guess you could theorize that a pharmaceutical company doesn't want to lose out on opioid sales to marijuana, because like that's actually been shown through the research, like in Colorado, that it's like lowering, it's like helping like combat this opioid crisis. It's like for pain relief, they can go to something else.
And I mean, there's a small detail on that. The company was called Insys. I think they're still in business. They had a bunch of like legal stuff going on. Their CEO was like jailed for racketeering or something like that, some sort of tax evasion. But
meanwhile, their product is like, hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
as they were launching that campaign, the No on 205 or whatever, they were developing, I think it was like a THC analog or something, but it was like you said, some sort of opioid that was based on that same molecule. Basically, they were trying to patent it. Their business plan was, let's patent this molecule, but make sure this source molecule is illegal, which is wild. Like, that's some evil shit.
Guys, we invented a new form of spice.
Yeah.
And it's $400 a pill. And it's gonna make you go insane. You're gonna get psychosis.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. Like you said, for all the money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge motivation for pharmaceutical companies. There's a lot of horrible shit that goes on. I mean, you look at I can't remember his name, but the guy who bought this like insulin drug that only a few people needed and upsold the price to like $1,000. Martin Shkreli.
Was it? I think it was AIDS medication with him, but I think he might have been
yeah.
fucking with a lot of other things as well.
I
Meanwhile,
haven't
that
heard
guy's
about
in
this.
jail.
He's just like some high roller big shot with a bunch of money, and he buys up everything and resells it.
He bought the Wu-Tang like album.
Oh, I heard about this guy.
Yeah, remember that?
And I think Joe Rogan had RZA on the podcast, who was like even asking RZA about this like secret album, you know. And I don't know, like I didn't get a very satisfactory like response, but I don't know. Like it was interesting, like that whole Wu-Tang like secret album, how it's like one person can hear it, and then I don't know when the public will ever be able to hear it. I think there's like some tracks that are out, but like the whole thing
is sold.
What media is it on?
It's on like
it's like a CD.
I think it's on a CD. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it like self-destructs or something when you play it, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, and the whole point of Martin Shkreli ended up making, like, the whole, like, so many people freaked out about that because it was one person you could identify, and it was very public and media driven, that this one guy, this evil man, went and took this AIDS medication and that millions of people need, when it's only like a couple hundred that these millions of people need, and upsold it. And the point that he was trying to make is, like, we live in a system where I can do this. Like, there's no repercussions as far as you guys know. I can go buy this medication people need, resell it, and that isn't mentioned. That isn't mentioned very often, that we just have a system where you can do things like that.
Yeah. And that is the business model for a lot of, I mean, granted, probably not for pharmaceuticals, but, you know, there's companies that resell food. Aramark is a huge food distributor. They do a lot of universities and jails and stuff. And that's what they do, is they like do the food distribution and reselling, basically. So that's nothing new. I think it's a interesting point to play devil's advocate while being the devil himself.
Yeah.
But I think it makes sense. I think it's like, I'm living my best life because this is the system. I can't change the system.
Yeah, I'm not saying
you're
right.
probably doing all you can do to like point at it and be like, this is really dumb. I shouldn't be allowed to do this.
Well, also like the EpiPen, like there was a huge inflation in the price of the EpiPen. That was in the news a while back. I forget what actually came out from that, but it was like, you know, the EpiPen, like for people that have allergies, like severe allergies, like they need that, like those antihistamines to survive like a deadly allergic attack, you know. And it's like the price of an EpiPen went up to like $500 or $600 or something like that, when it's like you could get, like, thankfully, like you can't like they couldn't like patent the actual like something about it, like where competitors were able to step in and be like, no, you can here, it's actually worth about $20 for us to still be making a profit on, you know. And it's like, so but just stuff like that, it's like like and it's because of like, I guess they're like, oh well, health insurance is just gonna pay the bill.
Yep.
It's like, but if you don't have health insurance, you're fucked. Like,
Yeah, for real.
it's just part of a bigger issue altogether.
Mhm.
You know, it's like you get cancer in this country, like you're gonna go fucking bankrupt. Like you're like
Mhm.
the like, oh, I have health insurance. Like they're not even gonna pay for dick. They want you to die. Like
Mhm.
basically, like
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem with healthcare. It's a super big issue right now, and it just works so well for. I'm going to use the C word, capitalism, but it just works so well for the system to continue this sort of way, because the way people get healthcare most typically is through their employer, right? Their employer can in a way kind of hold it over their head, you know, keep working for us, you'll keep having healthcare. Go to another company, like good luck, or you know.
Yeah.
And then there's those and then there's those healthcare products. I think it's called like Viper insurance or something, where you're in between jobs and they'll cost you upwards of $1,000 per month to keep the same like family healthcare you've been depending on.
Holy shit.
oh yeah, Cobra
Cobra,
insurance.
yeah.
Yes, Cobra fucking insurance. What an apt name for a snake-like company.
Bites you and gets the venom in deep.
And
It's yeah, it's pretty crazy, man.
and then
Like
it just
those
point.
premiums are, yeah, it's like $1,000 a month.
It's $1,000 a month, and
It's
the
fucking rent.
the point the point I was trying to make is like, then that's like indentured servitude too. Like you have to stay at your job, you have to stay in your box, stay in your cubicle, otherwise you're gonna risk
Yeah.
all this other shit that we've been giving you. You know, and then so that works for the companies, and then they're paying the premiums to the healthcare insurers, which make a huge profit off of these companies. And
Yeah.
like when it comes down to your copays on some of the treatments you need to get, it can be, if you're not paying the $1,000 per month, you're going to be paying the $1,000 to the hospital, who can set the price literally at whatever they want. Like I watched a video about how some hospitals set their gloves to $20 a pair. So if your doctor comes in with a pair of gloves, that's $20 out of your pocket.
God damn.
If they have to use a Kleenex, like the box of Kleenex, $15. The fucking the needle itself is like $10, and it just stacks up and stacks up. And it's because there's no real regulation stopping them from doing it. It's a private company too.
Yeah.
They're all private companies with an overhead, you know, whatever it is. So yeah.
No, I think that's a really good point. And if you don't already know this about me, for anyone that's made it into the podcast this far, I'm a giant geek. And Will, I've told you about this the other day, but there's this tabletop game like D&D. It's called Shadowrun, and it's
Ooh.
based in this, you know, post-capitalist, everything has kind of reached critical mass world in like 2056 or something like that. And one of the concepts in like the story and the world of the game is like a social security number. You're given a SIN. So it's something similar. I don't know what the abbreviation is for, but basically if you like work a corporate job at one of the 10 mega corporations, then you have one of these like government ID numbers, and you know, your housing situation is set, get your salary that way, everything is set, probably healthcare, all that good stuff too. And I don't think we're too far from that. I think what our current system encourages is definitely movement in that direction, and definitely more power to the corporations, centralization of healthcare to where you have to basically have a job to be on a health plan, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? It's like it's definitely late stage capitalism,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like I don't think and it's sort of like fruited from just the times that we're in, if that makes sense, or in these modern times, right? Like but yeah, it's crazy to think about, right? Because it's like you hear stories from the old days, right? It's like you used to be able to get a doctor to come over to your house with a little satchel, you know, and
This is goodie bag.
I don't know, like I don't think it cost you a fucking arm and a leg. But you know, then again, they didn't put you in a tube and spin a giant magnet around you and
Yeah,
take a
fair.
3D scan of your whole body. But I mean, like somewhere things got fucked up through. You know, I don't necessarily want to say like purely capitalism, but the fact that it just wasn't like the right regulations weren't put in place because people didn't foresee the future. Like you can't tell what's going to happen next. Like in all honesty, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it just yeah, like the capitalist system where you know, like a corporation or something's privatized, like they're just gonna find a way to just like bleed you dry, like take all your money. You know, it's ridiculous.
It kind of ties back into like it has me thinking about the people, the bureaucrats running the system being paralyzed. Like I think they see that it's not working. I think they just don't know what to do. I think like these corporations are huge, even with like the Facebooks and Amazons, they have these I forget what they're called, but like the Senate hearings or whatever, where they literally call them in and like ask them all these really serious questions, which could potentially bust up the whole company. Like that's why they brought them in, and it's crazy.
Well, sorry, I had a thought, but I think I lost it. But
I lost mine too there. I don't know if you heard that. I like started somewhere.
No. I think it ultimately comes down to like supply and demand as per usual in a consumer society. And another starting block for why things become so expensive, I think, is also education. For some, when you're a doctor, when you become a doctor, you're starting off with most doctors have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And because of that, and because of the years and years of schooling that they've went to, have a sense of entitlement to be paid $150 an hour, and that's a low rate. That's if you're not a specialist. That's if you're just a general MD. Like that's your starting rate. Like if education was such that you could go and be whatever you wanted to be and not have so much of that worry of education, like what do you pay for at the end of the day when you're going to a school to learn? You're paying for the professor, you're paying for the school grounds, you're paying for what else? What else are you paying for?
Nowadays, you're just paying for a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
And
your Zoom subscription.
And it's the same price.
Ebook publication. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
It's
the
covered in your
e-textbook.
tuition, in your $9,000 tuition.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you go to Harvard and like it's just all online classes.
This
No
beautiful
parties,
campus.
no chicks.
Yeah, that's the Zoom background is like the lecture hall that's like all historic and shit.
Yeah. And I mean, shit, like when we were going to ASU, like most of my money I was dropping into that, sinking into that place was going to a new stadium.
Yeah, apparently.
To attract more students to come who would pay for another new stadium. You know what I mean?
The biggest fucking college in the world, I think, right? Like that in Ohio State. Like I love ASU, you know, like I still live in Tempe, like years after graduating, but like, goddamn, like, it's like they're doing some weird shit over there.
It makes me think about, so I was going to
Frank
say
Cushfield.
Yeah, goated Cushfield. Like Davis, what you were saying about the debt that you take on in like choosing to become a doctor and like entering the workforce like that. I'm just a 25-year-old that's ignorant and I don't know how a lot of this shit works, but it doesn't make sense that a university, which a lot of which are public, granted some are private, a lot of them are public, you go to study for a profession that is basically a public servant. Like we don't have universal healthcare or like government healthcare, but you're always like client facing, right? Even if you're a specialist, you're operating on someone or like looking at someone's scans. So yeah, it seems backwards that you would like get set up for that debt and then go into the workforce. Like, why front load that when it's just like, oh, here's your reasonable pay after you finish your school, and also because you're going through the school, like it's covered, or maybe it's just a more reasonable price. I don't know.
Not only that, but the debt enslaving them as a result.
Yeah.
It's like libertarians are always like, oh, what are you gonna enslave the doctors with public health care, with Obamacare, like blah blah blah, like, or universal health care, right? Like, it's like they already fucking are enslaved, like through debt. Like the debt enslaves them, so they have to work for years just to break even and not be in debt.
Yeah.
And then they start making bank.
Yes.
But that's like 10 years in.
That's 10 years in. And I mean, like, more power to them. That takes so much dedication, and you really do have to love your job to want to become a doctor. Like, I wouldn't imagine there's a lot of people who went through the whole education process who are now half-assing their job while they're a doctor. You know what I mean?
I think there's some, I don't know. I've heard some horror stories, and I've been on, I forget the name of the website now, but it's like studentdoctors.com or some online forum for like prospective med students. I've heard of people that like get halfway through med school, they realize it's not for them, but it's like, shit.
Oh yeah.
$160 in debt. I'm kind of boxed in now. Like, this is all I got.
True.
I don't know how I would pay this off anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, and they chose that, like, what, at 22?
Yeah.
Realistically, 21. And it's like, now they're 25, you know, they're like, shit, I don't want to do this, but now I'm in the hole. Like,
Or worse,
300
it's like you
grand.
powered through, but you're like questioning again. You're like 2 years out of school. You're so close, but you're like, I'm miserable. I don't know. I really feel for them. And I think it's more common than people talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like they're working like 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, working 40 hours a week. That's a lot of time to spend working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think the show Scrubs like kind of captured that aspect of
Apparently-
being a doctor.
I remember reading that's the most medically accurate drama, like based in a hospital. Is Scrubs.
Medically, I've heard of that too.
Yeah. You'd think it's House because they get so like technical.
He's like a genius, and he's just like a dick as well. And he's just like he's like
always
Sherlock
on
Holmes.
painkillers or something too. I don't know.
Oh,
what he's
yeah.
popping. He's just always popping pills.
Yeah. It's a tough job.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah. It man, when I was looking at the healthcare system and I was looking up all those facts, I'm like, I'm just gonna go to the UK. I'm gonna go to somewhere else. Like this, it's just fucked. It's just fucked. I can't go get seen by a doctor unless I want to pay out of pocket some $300 for a checkup, or I go and get health insurance that will only cover this amount of money for this amount of checkups.
Yeah.
It's a rough life.
Yeah.
Life out there. But yeah, healthcare, man, it's big business. Well, other than that, I don't know. We've reached an hour and 15. Was there anything we wanted to mention, or anything else on our minds we wanted to get out?
Nothing for me. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. There's ideas cooking in here. They haven't hit the project file yet. But there's ideas.
Definitely. Well,
I'm waiting for you to remit or drop that like hard style like banger that I heard.
Oh,
It
with the
was-
like cartoon intro. Hell yeah, that's at the forefront. I'll be honest.
That one needs to come out into the world and influence people. I feel
I'll
like
make
that's
sure of it.
it's gonna
You can
make
count
some
on it.
changes to people's lives.
As soon as this controller comes in, I'm so excited. Like, as bad as that mindset is to be like, oh, as soon as I get this piece of gear, like, I don't know. It's my first big boy MIDI controller, kind of all in one.
It's gonna be sick. Well, I'm excited for you, Arde. Where can the people find you at if they want to listen to these up and coming tracks?
That's a good question. I think my current username. Let's double check. So everything is the same. I do remember syncing everything up to the same handle. That's a lie. My SoundCloud is Barcode, like just the normal word barcode. Everything else, Twitter, Instagram, anything I'd actually use is Barcode, but the A is a 4 and the E is or the O is a 0, and then there's 2 E's. We'll put that on screen. I'm sure
Put
we
it
can
on
that.
screen. Yeah, there.
Yeah, it's complicated, but we'll make it happen. It's Barcode in like Leet speak, B4 R C0 D E E.
Hell yeah.
I'm a hacker.
Fucking hacker, man.
Hackerscript.net, bro.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that shit. All right, and Will, where can we find you at?
You can find me on Instagram. The link is right there.
So much more smooth.
So much smooth. And
What about you?
myself, DJDalleAZ. You can catch me here at DJDalleAZ. I want to thank you once again, Mr. Arde, for coming on the podcast, and we look forward to seeing what comes next.
That's
Yep,
right.
thank
Make
you,
sure to
guys.
follow us. Sorry, already go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say thanks. Appreciate you having me on, and it was a pleasure. Back to you, Will.
I love you, Artie. Oh man. But yeah, make sure you like, comment, smash that motherfucking like button, and follow our Instagram. Follow at official_in the crypt for whenever the society is ready to get out and party. We're gonna have a party as soon as it's ethical to do so. So stay tuned. I don't know if that's next month, next year, 5 years from now, in the future.
Oh, fuck.
I don't know if I'll make it that long, dude.
But rest assured, when we can party, we're gonna have one.
We're gonna be
So
partying.
stay tuned.
Trust.
Partying soon. All right. Thank you, Arde. Namaste, and may the base gods
Namaste.
be with you. Bye.
Thank you very much.